But we begin here in France, which is in the throes of one of the most extraordinary election campaigns ever witnessed. The world is now watching to see just how successful the far-right presidential candidate Marine Le Pen will be. This, as François Fillon, the Conservative candidate, is facing a formal investigation over a fake job scandal involving his wife. He denies any wrongdoing. The other unexpected strong contender is centrist candidate Emmanuel Macron. Yet the rollercoaster nature of this campaign has meant other issues have well and truly taken a back seat, especially policies relating to women. Instead, the focus has been on the possibility of a far-right candidate becoming a president, who just happens to be a woman. Joining me to discuss this today is noted feminist and founder of the Women's Foundation here in France, Anne-Cécile Malfer, and Reuters political correspondent Elisabeth Pinault, who's been covering the campaign. Thanks to both of you for joining me. Elisabeth, let me start with you. The reality is that France is a country where the gender pay gap is still an issue. I think it's somewhere in the order of 25%. You've got elements of the far right who want to roll back reproductive rights. Why is it that women's issues have barely created a mention at all?
Well, it's an issue in France indeed, and things are improving very, very slowly. The new thing in this presidency, in François Hollande's presidency, is that for the first time in French history, half of the government was composed by women, and this is a big change. And the man-woman issue is beginning to be an issue, a subject in the presidential campaign. For instance, Emmanuel Macron promised that the woman issue, man-woman issue, equality would be a national cause. Emmanuel Macron said that, and Benoît Hamon, the socialist candidate, said that he would have a very strong Ministry of Women's Rights. And François Fillon, the candidate from the right, said that he would have equality between men and women in his government, in his future government, if he's elected president. But this is all new in the French political landscape, because still only 25% of members of parliament in France are women. So there is a big, it's very, very late. There is a big gap between men and women in the French political landscape.
Anne-Cécile, as we heard there, you have Emmanuel Macron, who's made mention of it. The socialist candidate has made mention of it. But it still is not front and centre stage, the way that women's rights were during the American election. Isn't this dangerous? It sort of comes across as all of women's rights are in fact guaranteed, when in fact that isn't the case, is it?
It is not the case. Women's rights are not guaranteed. For instance, the abortion right is not in the Constitution, which means that it could be, if the Parliament votes a new law, it could very easily be overturned. What is important to understand is that even though Emmanuel Macron just mentioned it, even though indeed Hamon, Benoît Hamon, all the other candidates also kind of showed some measures on women's issues, still they don't understand that it's not just about little measures. I mean, if we really want equality and for the years to come, because politics is about shaping the future of your country. It's about shaping what's going to happen in the next years and years to come.
Given that I just made reference there to the American elections, how much is there a difference between France and the US when it comes to gender equality?
We can say that we've had a woman in the presidential as a presidential finalist. That was in 2007. That was Ségolène Royal, who tried to become president and was and lost against Nicolas Sarkozy. That was a few years ago. We've had just one single French prime minister, Edith Cresson, and we've had like Elisabeth Guégou, Christiane Taubira as Minister of Justice. But still, even in today's government, who is composed half by women, we have very few women in the important posts, important ministers.
I think sexism is much more tolerated here in France than it is in the US. I mean, from my perspective, but from French point of view, because when you see that the vice president of the National Assembly, Baupin, was some woman complained about sexual harassment from him.
It was a petition, wasn't it, signed by French journalists and parliamentary assistants who also sent out a letter.
Actually, there's a lot of sexism within the political class, and there is also a lot of problems of real violences like sexual harassment, and we see that there is a lot of tolerance. Like they are not excluded from the political parties. They can still, be in the assembly and, keep voting laws
being
and
whistled
deciding.
for wearing a dress,
Yeah.
like the Minister Cécile Duflot was just a year ago. She had,
It's about
she was insulted.
tolerance. It's about tolerance. Do we, as a society, do we accept sexism? Do we accept sexual harassment in France? I have to say, yes, we do, unfortunately. And I think this is one of the reasons why it's not progressing that much. Even though it's going better, but I'm still positive. But compared to the US, we still have far to go.
Let's talk about the sole female presidential candidate in this race, and that, of course, being Marine Le Pen. Elizabeth, does she describe herself as a feminist?
I don't think so. She is a woman, obviously, but she doesn't play that game. She doesn't act especially like a woman. And I don't think the people consider her as a woman candidate. She represents the Front National, who is the National Front, who is the extreme right party, and people who vote for the National Front are angry, that they express anger, whether it is Marine Le Pen or her father, Jean-Marie Le Pen.
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't say that?
No, I wouldn't say that because what I saw on the figures and the polls regarding Marine Le Pen is that actually, if she has gained compared to her father, she has gained a lot of votes from women, because women wouldn't vote for her father because he was probably too male-ish, they didn't like probably too violent in his ways, and she appears as more soft. She doesn't appear as dangerous as her father because she's a woman. So it's like stereotypes about women. She's actually kind of playing on them. So a lot of women are voting for Marine Le Pen. They would have never voted for her father. And actually, she is saying things about women. And more surprising and more disappointing is that a lot of people actually believe that she is the best defender of women's rights in France. If you look at, there has been a poll a few weeks ago saying that she was seen as the candidate that would defend the best women's rights in France, when actually she is the most dangerous for women's rights in France.
Okay, now finally, what I want to do is talk about the parliamentary elections, which are happening in June, because that's the other key election coming up. And in terms of female political representation, how is each party faring on that front, Elizabeth?
Well, we had the law, the parity law, there exists, but for the moment, the socialists are the best regarding this law, and the right generally pay fees because they don't respect the parity. So we hope that in these elections, in these parliamentary elections, things are going to change. And as I said, only a quarter of members of parliaments are women. So we hope that this is going to improve, and it should improve thanks to the law, not really thanks to the willing of those parties who are mainly composed by men, but thanks to the law, it should change.
I'm really sorry we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.